Hello, I am Sophie Von Ahn, writer here on YouTube, and today I want to share 3 tips that I use on myself to finish my draft of my novel. Because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's like you're crawling to the end, like just scraping at the ground, hoping you can reach it. So here are 3 tips that I use to try and make that a little bit easier. And honestly, these tips might seem obvious after I say them, but sometimes they just don't stick. And personally, I know I have to remind myself of these 3 like every time I'm nearing the end of a draft. So maybe these can help you too. So tip number 1 I have is return to what first excited you about your story. This can be a number of things, songs, pictures, other stories, drawings that you might have done, anything and everything, but returning to those things could like spark the emotions you were feeling at the beginning of your story or whenever you created those objects that you relate to your story, and you're back in the game. You're back in the game. One thing that I've really found is very helpful to just get that little extra boost when you're feeling down is I've made a playlist for my story. I'm sure many of you have as well. And also mood boards. Mood boards are everything for me. But being able to revisit like the songs or the photos I've picked out at like the peak of my inspiration for the story is just so motivating, and it can really bring back the like raw emotions that you felt when you made that playlist or you made that mood board or you drew that drawing. And even if it brings back like the tiniest fraction of that emotion or that motivation, that might be just what you need to reach the end. Now, tip number 2, this one is very important for the camp NaNoWriMos and the NaNoWriMo, but it should be important all the time, and that is focus on one stage of the writing process at once. Some people can edit while they write, which big kudos to you, but many people cannot, and it can be very unmotivating to try and work out all the problems in your story while you're still in the middle of it, you know? And if you are one of those people that can get very easily overwhelmed by the issues that you can see in your story, it is best to not ignore them forever, but ignore them for now, ignore them for the time being, and just write, just draft. So stick to one thing, stick to drafting, and then we can move on. So especially for this part, just write it the best you can, the best possible words you can get out on the page, and then we'll return to it later, and we'll fix everything. We'll make it all better. And for this, just in case, you know, maybe you find like a plot hole while you're writing, or some other plot issue, and you don't want to forget about it. You don't want to return to it and start revising and realize that you skip over a plot hole just because you weren't thinking about it. What I do for that is I have a little list that I'll keep either in like one of my notebooks or on a document that is just separate, that is basically just a list of every problem that I catch. And this is super useful because it, 1, makes sure you don't miss anything, and 2, you can kind of refer to the list and see if past you was wrong. You know, maybe it isn't as much of an issue as you thought, and you kind of can like, you can leave it for later, a little more later, but keeping a list both makes sure you acknowledge it, you know the issue is there, and then you can also cast it aside. Now that you have it in a list, you know you can deal with it, and now you can ignore it. Now you can ignore it, and you can keep going, and that's great. And number 3, probably the most important one of all of them, is to make sure you take your breaks. If you're not happy with your story, step away from it. Step away from it. You don't want to make a bad situation worse. Give it a second to breathe. Give yourself a second to breathe too. And in this time, either step back and get a bigger picture of your story, or just don't think about it at all. Just blank mind. Ignore it. Don't think about it. But it is up to you to decide how you need to approach this break, if you want to still focus on your story, or if you want to completely ignore it, and how long that break is. It could be 10 minutes, it could be a month. Who knows? Who knows? It's all up to you. And maybe for you, that means picking up your current read, watching a TV show, taking a nap, just stepping away doing something else. But it is so easy to get sucked into the whole my story sucks and no one will ever like this cycle, especially when you are staring at your manuscript all day, every day. So step back, take a deep breath, and return to your story with fresher and much more positive eyes. So, those are my 3 tips for finishing your novel. It's more of like the big picture thing, definitely not tips for ending the climax or fixing the resolution, but definitely just little things that you can do to keep chipping away at your manuscript, but making sure you maintain your mental and physical health while you are writing your stories is very important, not only for yourself, but also for a good quality story. But that is it for me. Thank you so much again, NaNoWriMo, for letting me do this. Good luck with the rest of the month. Good luck with camp. You've got this. I've got this. We've got this. Yeah. Good luck, everyone.